for a fintech company, trust is the biggest product. The credibility which was coming from the Symbiosis institution was helping us to crack few of the deals.
We also started an incubation center. We have 158 startups, 80 have graduated. The startups are valued at 3,200 crores.
Founders need doers. So if you're kind of having mentors in the education ecosystem, you try and bring industry practitioners and or venture scalers to kind of get them to advise.
Measuring success of entrepreneurship from how they have gotten funded or how many companies have raised funding is the wrong metric.
And it shows how a university is giving the kind of freedom that it gives to the students.
There cannot be entrepreneurship. You will just have safety and like, hey, things will go as they go because people will only do what has a chance of succeeding.
But one thing I did do throughout my startup journey was I kept learning.
Amazing people on this panel. They comprise founders, investors, institution builders, but great minds. That's the common theme out here. And so I hope we can make this extremely engaging. What I'd like to do is to just do a quick 1-minute intro with each one of them. I will let them make their own introduction so that I don't goof up. But just to get it started, let me introduce myself. My name is Amay Marshalkar. I head Digii100x. Digii100x is Reliance's corporate accelerator program where we incubate and mentor early stage startups. We provide them with commercial partnership opportunities, mentorship, as well as strategic investment opportunities. So that's what I've been doing for a while, come more from the corporate sector. But I'd like to kind of just go around the panel and request my colleagues to introduce themselves. Shivati, you want to go first?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Amay, for inviting. So I'm managing partner, co-founder of Prime Venture Partners, which is a venture capital fund based out of Bangalore. We invest in early stage tech companies.
Hi, I'm Mekin Maheshwari. I was the earliest tech leader at Flipkart and then also ran HR at Flipkart. Invested in about 150 startups, supporter of Plaksha and Ashoka. But most of my day job right now is to run a non-profit that works with about 47 lakh government school students to help them be entrepreneurial through a curriculum that's taught from 9th to 12th grade, 2 periods a week, through project-based learning and students building business projects.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kunal. I head strategy and growth for the education vertical at the Times Group. And most of my point of view will be around institution building and also a point of view on how universities are practically run, because I've been closely involved with conceiving and also establishing Bennett University, which we continue to run. So therefore, I represent Times Group and Bennett University and that point of view on this platform. So Amaya, looking forward to exchanging good ideas and notes.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jitendra Chokse. I'm a software engineer turned entrepreneur. I have been running a fitness startup called Fitter for quite some time, and now we are building India's preventive and primary care ecosystem. Yeah.
Hello everyone, I'm Amit. I'm leading technology at EaseBuzz as a co-founder and CTO of the company. We are India's first verticalized payment solutions platform where we are solving deeper problems around payments, and we are coming out as a startup from Pune. We are incubated by Symbiosis. Today I'll be covering the fantastic journey, successful incubation journey with Symbiosis, while we have given them the exit in the last year. So whatever which has been working for us, what has really we have seen as in best practices. So that's something which I will be able to navigate through. Yeah.
There are mics.
Yeah, so we want to
Great. Thank you so much, guys. I think all of you. Hi. Abdul, hi. Please join us.
Sorry, I'm late. I'm just getting some printout for today's speech.
So we were just introducing ourselves. Yeah, can you do a
give
quick
background?
intro?
Yeah, so my father is a founder. He's a school dropout, left India when he was 19 years old, went to Singapore, Sri Lanka, Singapore, and Hong Kong, lived in Hong Kong. In 1962, he started his first school. It's a residential school where all of us studied. A lot of people are graduated from there are doing very well. So then he went on to start 8 girls' school, 1 women's college, and 1 university or engineering college, which was started in 1982. So I'm an engineer, Guindy Engineering College, went abroad, came back, joined father in the business, and been involved in the Crescent institution from 1997. So built it up from a 300 student intake to 3,600 student intake today in 32 undergraduate and 30 master's courses. Some interesting things which we are doing is we have tied up with industry partners for 6 new courses in biotechnology, stem cell, IVF, robotics and IoT, and AI/ML. And then we also started an incubation center. We have 158 startups, 80 have graduated. The startups are valued at 3,200 crores. So what we like to do, somebody was asking me yesterday, Abdul Kader, what's your 1,000-day plan? I said, I have a 2047 plan. This is my brother, Ahmed. We have to talk big, we have to plan big. So inshallah, yeah, let's do it. So 2047 to increase the student strength 10x. So 10x growth from the present, which we have about 18,000, 20,000 students. So we're working on that. And then research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So we want to move to applied research, innovation, so you have a patron, start a company, and entrepreneurship. So that's the drive. So entrepreneurship is the drive going forward.
Fantastic. So, just getting started out here, I wanted to pick your brain on, and all of us pretty much have been out of the college and the university system for more than 10 years, I'm assuming, certainly me. But in the last decade or so, based on your observation of the institutions, colleges, universities, what are the major changes that you have observed in encouraging entrepreneurship in these institutions? And all of you can take a stab at it, or maybe, anybody wants to take a lead, can get going on this topic.
Yeah, another institution started in Chennai by 2 young people under 30 years old. It's called IVB. I don't know any of you heard about it. So what's interesting is, first year the student comes and completely industry practitioners come and teach. Come all from industry, guy who's doing finance comes and teach finance. Guy who HR does HR. Marketing does marketing, first year. Second year, 100% internship, whole year internship. Either 4-4-4, that is 4 months, or 6-6. Third year, start your own venture. And they collect the fees in the beginning and they give 1 lakh to each of the students, which is not a small amount. If there are 3 groups, 3 students, 1 lakh each. And this is their third year. This is the first year which students are coming out. So they came to people like us, Chennai Angels, for investment. I'm an angel investor. And beginning, everybody a little skeptical whether they'll get, not get. But they are getting students fighting with their parents, saying, I don't want traditional education. I want this. I want to go take a stab at starting a company. So for the namesake degree, they have tied up with IIT, IIM, and one more, I think SRM or somebody. So they get a degree online. But this is what they do. So I think the world is changing. And the students are changing. The students are fighting with their parents. See, I don't want to go to traditional, I don't want to go to Crescent, I want to go to something like this.
So the students might want to do this, but how are the institutions giving them the support to pursue the educational institutions or the universities? Is there some change that you've seen?
We are tying up with IVB. So IVB came to us, and I told him, Arey Baba, you're doing undergraduate, 3 year, do MBA for me. He said, no, this, that. I said, whatever you want, we will do it. I told my people, I'm sorry to tell in Tamil, that means upside down you stand, we'll do this. So, I think the universities have to change.
Awesome.
I can add the university perspective to whatever I've seen, but I think first I will want to ask a question. I think that question is a very concerning paradox today, where data will tell you that educated graduates are less employed, more unemployable than their lesser educated counterparts, right? And I think that is the question I think we need to ask. So I'm happy that we are moving beyond employability to this conversation around innovation, institution building, and entrepreneurship. Therefore, I think at Bennett University, or even with Bennett being backed by a corporate group like Times Group, I think a lot of what we think is required is that while we value what is important for jobs, entrepreneurship, future of entrepreneurship is equally important as future of jobs is. Therefore, the question is, what are we doing to kind of encourage that? And I think, one, I have to give credit to our regulators, because while in the past, all of us would have agreed, a lot of this was very, very structured, where it did not give flexibility to allow some of this. But I think when you want to solve for educating at scale, I think we are not looking for just solving for jobs. There we want to kind of create entrepreneurs. I think we were just having a conversation in the morning. We want to create people who are change makers, we want to create people who are policy kind of thinkers. So we want to create what that individual is capable of wanting to do, and we want to give them a platform. So I think, therefore, if you ask that question on employability, I think the critical path is we need employability-focused outcomes, and we also need entrepreneurship-focused education, both. At least that is my point of view, and we can, of course, get into how we are getting there once we go across the panel and the room for sharing more ideas around it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else wants?
Sure. Yeah, I think the rise in number of people, so number of students wanting to be entrepreneurs in the top colleges across the country, and that followed by accelerators. So IIT Chennai, IIT Bombay, IIM Ahmedabad are known for the kind of acceleration that, or incubation and acceleration that they have been able to create, and the value of the startups that have come out of those places. But a lot of these journeys actually started almost 2.5 decades back. When I was an engineer, there were some of these colleges that started on incubation cells and started promoting the idea of entrepreneurship almost 27, 30 years back. I do think that there is a lot of momentum in terms of people wanting to set up e-cells, wanting to do things. I would just hope for and wish for that, one, there is a lot more deeper involvement of practitioners, which is founders and VCs, in doing this, right, in how you set it up. This, unfortunately, isn't something that can be learned academically. This is best learned by doing. So it's the doers who are best positioned to help set up entrepreneurship cells in colleges. And the second key piece, and Abdulji talked about it, right, which is how do you restructure a large part of the curriculum and time to support entrepreneurship. So we've had Udyam students who started their business ventures in 11th and 12th grade and then have joined colleges. They've continued their business ventures and are struggling to keep attendance and business alive, right? So, hey, how do I manage my business? They don't get credits for the business that they're doing, for the ventures that they're running. And I feel like there lies opportunity for institutions to think about how do they encourage and how might they enable this. There are organizations like BITS Pilani, for example, that actually enable quite a bit of this. So I think, and to the example that Abdulji mentioned, global examples like Babson's are good role models around understanding, oh, here are all the things that a university can possibly do to really, really inculcate and energize entrepreneurship. But overall, is there movement? There is a lot of movement in the last decade. There are a lot of e-cells happening. I do wish that a lot more of them were guided, led, done by practitioners. And I do hope that besides the e-cell, entrepreneurship actually becomes a core part of the university itself and becomes part of core curriculum, and that takes up much deeper change.
Awesome, thank you.
And if I may just
Yeah,
add
please.
to what Mikin is saying, I think applied learning is the operative word, right? I think all of us have learned from Ivy League institutions that they do it very well. What stops us from doing it? And I think, again, their entrepreneurship is one of the biggest levers where you can earn and learn both, right? You don't necessarily need to become an entrepreneur by launching a venture. In my view, it's a mindset. Therefore, if we kind of move to outcome-based education, and if we are looking at applied learning and embedding industry engagement, like Abdulji was also mentioning, I think that is the only way to solve for some of these outcomes. And hopefully employability, hopefully making more entrepreneurs, hopefully getting more successful ventures. And I think, again, that's another thing we are focusing on at Bennett. We want to build a school which will create entrepreneurs. While we have incubators that work with entrepreneurs, but I don't think today we have a Babson-like offering in India. And I don't see how it is not our responsibility and as Times Group or even BU to kind of do that. And I think that's where I feel when we look at the concept of applied learning and we look at outcomes, we need to solve for that through some of these initiatives. And I really feel there is a scope for having a school of training entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So to bring the one perspective to this, like thanks to Shark Tanks and all, so entrepreneurship has become a risky world to now a flashy world now. So one thing I have noticed while I am working very closely with Symbiosis Incubation Cell or BIT Mishra Incubation Cell, now this flashy world has brought in a lot of bolder students. There are a lot of bolder decisions which has been, people are making. But the problem is that lacking of the infrastructure, like the frameworks, is bringing a lot of problems, right? While there is no one who can validate the MVP, right? No one who can guide the students with the correct product market fit, right? So all of this is leading to, kind of a subsequent failures in smaller chunks, and that is resulting to the larger kind of notion building in respective cells. So that's where we as an corporate or we as an industry experts have to kind of join hands with the institutions, help students to identify, and that's where we have built something in kind of a BIT Mesa where we have invited alumni. There's one problem needs to be solved by institution, that we need to also incentivize alumni for their contribution towards it. Maybe it's a small kind of certification or maybe small recognition from the institution side, so that they can kind of open up with larger opportunity or larger engagement to the students. So that's something which we have noticed very closely.
Got it. Thank you everybody. I'd like to just go individually now and kind of get your perspective on, based on your experience on a few things. So Mekin, starting with you, you've been very active in both government engagements through Udyam and private universities like Ashoka and Plaksh in encouraging entrepreneurship. And feel free to be candid. From your experience, Is the current incubator model working well, and what could be better?
Yeah, I think I covered some of it early on, that I wish there were more, as in more doers and people who had more experienced with actually running ventures, trying out ventures, trying investing themselves, more deeply involved with the university setup. But I feel what I see that's fundamentally and foundationally different from, say, how I think about investments or how I think startups have done well. At early stages, and I'd love for Shripati to add, right? When I invest in a company, so when I was investing in Digi, I was not investing in Digi, I was investing in Himmat, right? So you back founders. Unfortunately, our incubation models are all driven by selection of ideas. I think that's a problem, right? Most entrepreneurs start with a bad idea. I can rattle out examples. Bill Gates started with selling programming languages, right? That was his first idea. Sachin and Binny of Flipkart first wanted to make a comparison shopping site, right? That was their idea. And if you graded them on the idea, right, you would probably not back these people. So incubators have to shift from evaluating ideas to evaluating mindsets. I think, again, I'll be slightly provocative. You've asked me, you've given me permission to be candid, so please forgive me. But the core mindsets that an entrepreneur needs, a lot of our education system actually tries to put a lid on them. Right? For entrepreneurship, you need independent thinking, you need decision-making and ownership. The number of decisions a student is allowed to make in their journey of education, besides arts, commerce, science, is actually a handful. So we don't give them practice of decision-making. We don't think about like, oh, what decisions can you take and then hold yourself accountable for those decisions. That's first. I think second is experimentation. And again, independent decision-making is hard culturally, where we have we have been told about respect elders, as in do not argue, right? So our cultural values and the educational system both aren't necessarily favoring independent decision-making and being a rebel. Second is experimentation. A key part of experimentation is failure. It's not a word that universities like, right? It's not a word that schools like. Our education system doesn't want anybody to fail. But if you don't fail, there will be no experimentation, right? That if you don't try, if something doesn't work, and then you try to improve it and iterate and get better, there cannot be entrepreneurship. You will just have safety and like, hey, things will go as they go, because people will only do what has a chance of succeeding. I think the third piece is grit. And grit has two parts. One, which India has a lot of, which is perseverance. But the second part is perseverance to a future goal. I think this visioning of future goals and becoming supportive to students that, hey, whatever ambition that they think of and they dream of, can we be the wind under their wings? Can we be supportive for them? Is again not something that you see often enough. With all of this, there are institutions, there are teachers who do all of this, but at scale, I feel like these are not three things that education is designed for. And I would hope that we slowly start rethinking and redesigning our cultures and our systems inside educational institutions to enable a lot more of this.
No, that's fantastic, because this is a great perspective from an institution's point of view. Shripati, I would like to turn to you, because you've talked in the past about, how, about the important traits that define a great founder. Mekin talked about how founders should be evaluated and not ideas within these incubators. So help us understand what those traits are, and then help us understand how they can be nurtured in our education system, whether it is incubators, colleges, etc., etc.
Yeah, thanks, Amay. And absolutely agree with what Mekin is talking about. Because in early stages, see, we are looking at what is constant and what is changing. What is changing is the business idea. What is constant for the most part are the people you are betting on. And that's the reason why we are actually looking at the founders and looking at it very deeply. So when you talk about some of these traits, I would call them as necessarily not sufficient conditions, right? These are the things which I, from an investor standpoint, am looking at. So one is that we are looking, when somebody is coming in, for something which I would call a non-obvious insight, which is someone comes in and you have a point of view about a problem, and the best entrepreneurs actually dispute and debunk about 20 to 30% of what you think is right. And that's what actually means that they actually have a deep understanding of the problem. And without that, you actually don't have a point of view which is new and has a possibility of success. The second thing I would say is that can you actually build a business around it? It's one thing to have an insight, but that's another thing to have a monetization and business model around it. That doesn't mean it's going to succeed the first time, but at least you have a point of view. And you will be surprised that we have, entrepreneurs and founders might have a lot of passion behind something, but not everything can actually sustain and support a business model. That's the second part. And the third and most important, perhaps, is nothing can be done on your own. So you need the ability to find the right folks around it. I've been associated with several ventures which I've started myself, but I can say none of which was my idea. I just happened to be with folks who had the ideas, and they said, hey, look, would you like to join us? And I had the opportunity to go ahead and do that. So I will say that those are the things which at least I have experienced, or I could say are common. With respect to your question, Amay, about what can institutions do? So perhaps I will say that measuring success of entrepreneurship from how they have gotten funded or how many companies have raised funding is the wrong metric. Because it comes very late in the process. It was mentioned, I think Kunal mentioned that we need the mindset, right? So what perhaps is a better way of thinking is that do the students have the agency, which is the thinking that, hey, look, there's a problem, and I can go and solve it. And so what can institutions do today to encourage that kind of mindset? That's perhaps the way I'm parsing that. To which my question is that are the institutions themselves entrepreneurial? Right, let's ask that question, which means that how many of institutions here will allow a startup to give them a solution which they would buy? Right, that's, you have all these problems, right? You have payment problems. I think Amit actually sold to Symbiosis, he was telling me earlier. Great. How many of those would do that? There are Digi sells to all these institutions, but still, it's a selling process. So that's probably one thing. Second is how many would actually give you credit for taking time off and doing it? How many would encourage multidisciplinary studies? Are professors allowed to work outside the industry? How does IP transfer work? If I, as a professor, create something, now I want to start something, is the institution holding on to it, or does it make it easy to do that? So the institutions themselves have to be entrepreneurial, and the best thing which they can do is help the students with problem discovery. That's the hardest thing. We have a lot of energy, but how do you find what is it that somebody wants which somebody is going to use? So I feel that cultivating that environment and perhaps leading by example and saying, hey, look, come and sell your solutions to us and we'll pay you for it, perhaps is the best thing which you could do here.
Fantastic. I think, this brings me to JC. Here we are talking about colleges, universities, incubators, nurturing founders in a journey to build a great company. I wonder if any institution played an important role in your journey. That's number one. Number two is, you're a huge proponent of health and fitness. Building a company can literally burn you out. So, what is that one single piece of advice you would give founders as they build their business and how to keep their sanity as they go through that journey?
Thanks. These are good questions. I'd say, look, education has played a very important role in my life. I don't come from an Ivy League. I come from probably a tier 2, tier 3 college. I did my engineering. But one thing I did do throughout my startup journey was I kept learning. And so as I started making more money, I think the best use of my money was when I was going out and learning. So I've learned at MIT, I've learned from Harvard, over the years I've learned different things. And these institutions have allowed me to think understand problems in a much different manner. For example, it was at Harvard that I learned primary care and hospital systems last year that allowed me to understand that India actually has a very bad hospital-first model. It's a completely inverted model. It should be a primary care first model. We have more hospitals, twice the number of hospitals than we should have primary care facilities. Completely opposite. So now we are trying to fix that, right? So it wouldn't have happened if I was not continuously learning. Now, I've just got into Washington University, so I'm going to do my master's in public health. Also looking forward to Johns Hopkins. So point being, it doesn't matter whether you come from an Ivy League, if you have an knack for solving problems, and you genuinely want to continue solving problems, educating yourself as non-negotiable. So yeah, if I have to say, is there one institution that has impacted me? I'd say just multiple institutions, including my schools and colleges, because I also happen to be one of the few kids in my village who was allowed to kind of get education, right? So right from my school, colleges, to every other institute I'm learning, all of them have helped. The other question is, how do you kind of deal with the mental stress? I have very simple philosophy. I say, look, exercise for the body, education for the mind. And what you're going through, there's no need to kind of, suffer through that problem alone. Others have suffered. We can learn from them. Education is how you learn from them.
That's great. That's a great answer, and I'm sure and I hope that founders really pay attention to that. Kunal, coming to you, you've written about how the demand for getting into top educational institutions is much more than the supply of these institutions. Where, again, entrepreneurship is an important element where ownership is greater than employment. I want to get your perspective on what can we do as an ecosystem to get there? What role can the government play? What can the industry do? And how do we bridge this demand and supply gap?
Thank you. I think, like Mikin said, it all comes down to doing and applied learning. So as industry, if all of us can devote time, I think that cannot be traded off for anything else. In fact, I will add one more layer. When we were trying to put frameworks in place for our incubator, I was curious to understand why university incubators can't become the Y Combinators of the world, right? Because one, they have the leverage of government funding, which others don't have, and founders need funding at an early stage. I think I was trying to see what is broken, and I'd spoken to a few founders, I'd spoken to some early stage funds, and I think what I got as takeaway, again, which was very important for me to learn was, there were two things. They're starved of funding, don't give them milestone-based kind of checklist, which is very compliance-linked. That's not something you want to drain them for. Second, like Mikin had already mentioned, founders need doers. So if you're kind of having mentors in the education ecosystem, you try and bring industry practitioners and or venture scalers or successful business, successful or not, business, people who've kind of grown businesses, to kind of get them to advise or mentor them. So therefore, coming to your question, I think the first help we all need to be accepting and be responsible for is as industry practitioners. As industry, if we can give more time to institutions, that institution building will automatically happen as far as the student ecosystem is concerned, and then all the employers and or everybody else will kind of get better outcomes for that. I think the second part is how we create an environment which will make you more secure. And I think, JC was sharing his journey and what was having a lot of impact in his life. In my life also, I think I've had the environment where I had the freedom to ask difficult questions, stupid questions. I had the freedom to probably say no to things I did not understand. I think a lot of that has gone out in a long way for me to become, if not an entrepreneur, an entrepreneur, even in my institution building journey. So coming to that point, I think can education institutions and even the regulators working with us create a design which kind of encourages inquiry, which kind of encourages freedom of expression, and maybe therefore teaches people how to learn than what to learn, right? I think if we do some of these things right, we will see the results, I have no doubt. And I think I will add one more thing while we are kind of talking about what is wrong. I think there are two things which just amaze me about India, and then they work very well. One is we are a land of jugaad. Nobody will disagree. So can you use that skill, value that, to kind of encourage people to do a lot more with a lot less? Because I think we are not a resource-rich country that ways. Whether it's skill deficit, whether it's deficit on resources when we are building institutions, I think if we have the mindset again to do a lot more with a lot less, and we are a land of jugaad, I think we have a huge opportunity to unlock value there. I think second, in India, we don't have to find problems. There are problems in everyday life that we see, right? So let's say an MIT lab will simulate, and they will ask, what problems can I find to give those outcomes to students? Here we are living through all of those problems. So I think that is again a great opportunity for our students to learn from. And I think second, I feel India is a laboratory, right? 1.4 billion Indians with so many Indias in India, where I think there is a huge opportunity again for you to pursue, grow, and solve for wherever you think your interests take you. So again, if you have the right mindset at institution, if we have the right design, as industry, if we can commit more time to build the substance that we want, right, when we complain about the form, I think hopefully that will take us where we want to be, and we also want to get there.
No, that's great. I think India is unique in that sense. Like you said, we have to have our own model of innovation and how we do things. But as I was thinking about this panel in the morning, I was reminded of a story of Google, where the founders of Google were doing their PhD, I believe, in Stanford University. It's all written in a book. I forgot the name of the book. And while they were doing their PhD, they thought of Google as an idea, and they showed it to their PhD mentor while they were doing their thesis, and he thought it was like a really cool idea, and he introduced them to Andy Bechtolsheim, who was part of Sun Microsystems, and they actually showed a demo of Google without internet, simply on the laptop. And he thought it was a cool idea, and he said, who should I write out the check to? And that was their first check of $100,000. And they did not have a company name because they had not registered a company yet. So they said that, give us some time, and they went back, they thought of the name Google. Ultimately, it was written to Google, they kept it in a drawer and went to Burger King to celebrate. But that's the story, and it shows how a university is giving the kind of freedom that it gives to these students, two students who created such a giant company, to go and explore something like this, where the PhD mentor is actually facilitating an angel investment into the company. So we often look at such examples from the West and see what we can emulate and what is not really needed. So, Abdul, just turning towards you, I believe you're a product of Babson College in the US, which is a huge name in entrepreneurship and innovation. Do you think the US or the West way of teaching entrepreneurship is relevant to us today, and what should we adopt and what can we do without?
Yeah, as you know, Babson is the #1 entrepreneurship course, college in the world. It's not Harvard, it's not Stanford, it's not Berkeley. So what do they get right? Because I had an excellent exposure when I was there. When I studied, I had an excellent exposure. But after, now when we are running the universities, we reached out to them, and it took us some time, a couple of meetings, 2-3 meetings, phone calls, blah, blah, blah. And finally, we tied a MOU with them. So we are one of the 3 institutions in the country who signed an MOU with Babson. But yes, they do give the framework, say what are they tell a lot what the faculty has to do. They have programs for the students to do pitch. It's an international program, and then they get them there. So that is happening. So we are doing that part. But I came across another organization, which is, you must have heard of Y Combinator, one of the most successful incubator in the world, accelerator incubator. So they have funded the people who got money from Y Combinator. This institution is the number 4 in US. So there is Stanford, Berkeley, something else, and then Georgia Tech. So it so happened that the guy in Georgia Tech, they have created a incubator. So I studied it. So he's from Chennai, from Guindy Engineering College, my alma mater, Shiva Raghupati. Took me some time to get to him also. But then I told, what are you guys doing? And that was the note, that's why I was delayed. We have an MOU, inshallah, signing with them. So they have created 850 student startups in the past 10 years. 850. Valued, he was saying, don't say value, but $3.4 billion. The startups in 10 years. I said, Shiva, what is your playbook? What are you doing? Please tell us. Yeah, we want to adopt, we want to sign. So it's not a big secret. So they have 30,000 students full-time and 30,000 online. But this year, 30,000 students have enrolled in entrepreneurship course. Man, that is amazing. That's a big number. And so that's the funnel. From there, they have the ideas, so proof of concept. And from there, the next one, they fund. On an average, 100 to 120 student startups per year. So, inshallah, we are trying to emulate them. So he was telling it was difficult to convince the students to look at entrepreneurship. And once they started seeing the success story, they said, I want to also take a shot at it. And like he was telling, it's what we are trying to do is the mindset. They don't have to do a startup. Not all of them have to do a startup. But they graduate with the mind that, okay, this is a problem statement. This is the, how do I find a market? This is my moat. This is my go-to-market strategy. This is my moat. This is my financial. This is my marketing strategy. That's enough. If we get that right, that's enough. So I guess, I think your question is what do we have to do? Going forward, this is what we want to do. And we are also willing to tell others how to do it. By the way, we are giving consultancy to 15 incubators, which is in educational institutions. So we tell them, what we are doing, what we got right, what we got wrong, what you should do. So, inshallah, let's start, all of us start doing it, like he's already doing it for 4.7 million students. So I think that funnel is also important from the school. So the incoming students into our university, if they come with that background, I think 50% of the problem is solved.
That's great, and it's really encouraging to see that India has its own model, and now you're trying to replicate a successful model across other incubators. Amit, this brings me to you. Your company, Symbiosis, started in Symbiosis University. Tell us more about how they helped you in starting up and how that journey has been for you. And what can some of the other educational institutions learn from this process?
Yeah, so I'll connect with your story, like, what you told about Google. So similarly, once, your ideas and you have a believer in your ideas and somebody is backing with, their feedback and right inputs at the time. And if that is happening, you are empowered, you are confident enough to go to face the real market, right? And if the believer is none other than your educator, your professor, right, who is guiding you day in, day out, and who really knows that, that the mindset, the point Mackinson has made, that qualifying mindset, right, that's, if that's the educator's responsibility, that, if there is the mindset shift which is possible with certain set of students, yeah, of course, the right kind of framework, right kind of activity can really build those mindsets. So that's something which has happened with us as well. While we were all kind of college pass outs, we were trying out something. So we founded this company in 2014. We started operation in 2016. So that talks about whatever time we have spent in just identifying the MVP, qualifying the idea to something. Initially, the idea was to build some platform for all of the buyers who are dealing with several vendors for the different services, bringing down every services to one platform, like Shopify, what it is offering. So that was something which we were doing in 2015. It was really, we are getting little traction from the businesses, like event-based companies. But the primary traction which came along while, our Symbiosis leadership has kind of supported us there, Dr. Vidya ma'am, and especially Dr. Raman sir, who has really mentored us beyond classroom hours, even on weekends, looking at our pitch decks, looking at our MVPs, giving feedbacks, raising difficult questions so that we can figure out the right business model, right commercial model for the industry. And that's where we kind of came out with few of the working ideas, where the Symbiosis incubation, which has happened in 2017, under SCI, under Department of Science and Technology, that also boosted our confidence. And with that confidence, we were able to hit the market. Now with the leadership with the mentorship which we have received, anyway, we are getting so many of feedbacks, validations. Then we have iterated our product every time, and then we have gone out with the product. The Symbiosis also have provided us the ecosystem support. Be it, since we are the tech founders, we were struggling with the company secretarial matters, we were struggling with chartered accountant supports. So that is something which has come from the institution itself. Like, and there are a lot of professors who were already having expertise from that point, from those domains. They came forward and then they supported us. So that's where, kind of a ecosystem support which came in. Also, with the institution, we got so many interns from the institutions. The primary talent which we have received. So SCIRA College, which is a technical institution from Symbiosis, we really got the opportunity to hire best talents from there. So that's credibility setting, or that's the faith they have shown on us, that that you hire out good talents. And so that's where that has helped us build the core team, that fundamental team. And to kind of to surprise of anyone, those people who has joined in 2015, there are 5 interns who has joined in 2015. 3 of them are still working with us. So we have 9 generation of Symbiosis interns working in our company. Out of 700 people we have, working in our company, 300 plus are Symbiosians. So that's the support which we have received from the institution, while we are getting talents and while we were hiring them. The point which sir has made already, that we were also giving feedback that this is something which these are the skills which will require for us to consume these talents.
I also heard that Symbiosis was your first customer.
Yeah, so that's something, with that, that's what the 5th point. So for any founders, like for any new startup, initial GTM is very important for the sustainability, for the founders' confidence boost. Anyway, Jitendra can also kind of tell that initial GTM is very important, where college ecosystem has also helped us to crack few of the deals, where be it the admission process automation, be it the collection of admission amount, or be it the fees portal collection, right? So where we have started working towards building the fintech company, for a fintech company, trust is the biggest product, right? And the credibility which was coming from the Symbiosis institution was helping us to crack few of the deals with with the kind of trust that I am able to handle your payments. I am able to solve your problems from the payment and the regulation compliance point of view. So all of that has helped us not just in maintaining sustainability. It has also helped us in becoming profitable. And trust me, we are one of the few fintech companies who has been profitable since inception. So it's been like 10 years of straight profitability which we have achieved. And with this going, progressing, we have completed the full cycle of the successful incubation journey, where we have given Symbiosis exit in the last year, which was the payout of more than 23 crores. And post that, it's not ended. The relationship is
How much did they invest?
Yeah.
How much did they invest?
So they have, so it was 2.53% around which was there. So it has resulted into 23,
Awesome.
25 crores.
That's great, Amit. Thank you so much. I think we're running out of time. I need one final question with in one-line answer from each one of them. The theme of this panel is Viksit Bharat. So the vision set by the government is of transforming India into a USD 30 to 40 trillion economy by the year 2047. What are the changes we need to bring in education today to achieve this goal, right, by 2047? So if you can, each one of you can in one line tell me, what is that one big change you'd like to see in the Indian education system? What would that be to be able to achieve this goal?
I'm going first. Okay. I would say the education institutions need to be a petri dish wherein the agency, the mindset of the entrepreneurial mindset needs to be developed. And that means that perhaps every student in this case should be graduating after trying to seriously build something which somebody uses, right? Because I think a series of change makers together will help us actually achieve a much, much larger change.
Yeah, I think many, but hard to pick one. I'll pick just a lot more doing focus in educational institutions, a lot more, so students doing or solving problems with agency, that becomes, I'd say at least 50% of the time that students spend in institutions is spent in solving problems by actually doing with their own hands, is the change I would hope that we can see.
I think if I have to, there are many things, like I agree with Mikhail, but I would think entrepreneurship will be a very key engine. We have to move beyond employability, we've discussed that. And I think last but not the least, if we have to grow 9x, 10x in about 10 years, like I had said earlier, we have to create an education design which welcomes failure, which welcomes people who can become policy thinkers and or entrepreneurs and or people who are very good at institution building. So if it's one skill, I would think entrepreneurship has to be the growth engine, and if institutions can kind of encourage that and create that right environment and mindset for students, it will hopefully help the cause.
So this might be a little controversial. If we are talking about improving education system, I think the first thing we need to do is get rid of uneducated and illiterate leaders running in the education system. Get rid of them, get educated people. Things will automatically improve.
That's very bold. Yeah. So one thing, from that perspective, I kind of can suggest, or probably we can follow. So industry academia collaboration has to grow, where even institution has to put in effort to bring in the industry engagements with the students, or opening up for the live projects, or even for the sandboxes, or getting access to any environment which can be a playground for the entrepreneurs to kind of check, validate their products. So that's something which can be a great addition.
Hi, I think we, all of us are telling the same thing, but from running an educational institution, qualified person running an institution, we want more industry practitioners to come and take classes, and the government is given, I think 15% is what credits are allowed. So I was the other day in Delhi with somebody in Niti Aayog. I was telling him that's something the government has to change. We want industry practitioners to come and teach. The student want it, we want it, so they should allow that. But another thing is, not everybody who is a finance guy or marketing guy know how to teach. Because here you have to grade the student, you have to prepare the notes, you have to come and present, and you have to do it for 13 classes. So there is a gap. So that also, one of my gentlemen, Mr. Shamir Yampo, he was talking about it. So that is one piece. And we recently signed up with Coursera. Now the online courses, government is saying only Swarm portal, you are allowed to give credits. If you take online courses through all this, Udemy, only 15% allowed, and that too only from Swarm portal. Why? Coursera, Udemy is one of the best in the world. So the world is also changing, right? Students don't want to come to class. They want to go and do their tinker around and do their startup. So in order to enable that, the courses are there already. So give them credit. So these are the two asks we have to push for the government, I guess.